Morning. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning. Okay, so since it looks like we have more people than last time at the beginning of the lecture, so thankfully we can start on time. All right, so I see that you got the link. Good. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think we should start already because we're not super in advance. So I'll just share my screen real quick and we can finish what we were talking about last time. All right. So some of you might have found this example a bit difficult because there's a lot of things going on there. There's what is a slope, what is a graph, what is a budget set, everything is there. Why am I showing you all of this right away? That's just because in the introduction, we were talking about the budget and were having this example showing this sort of graph. So I thought there's no way I can just show you this graph without explaining anything. So I think it's not too bad to spend some time to explain this, because anyways, that's a centerpiece of what microeconomics is, what's a budget line. So I thought let's explain it right away. But as you'll see, we are going to go over all these concepts all over again. So I know some of you are super quick and understand everything right away, but I know that some are less advanced. So I'm aware of that, and I'm not leaving you behind by any means. So, and you can always come to office hours to explain, to ask questions if there are things you haven't understood. Okay, so real quick, what was that all about? So this is the example. So what we want to highlight is the fact that we have choice, and we cannot choose everything. We have to decide what to consume with a limited amount of well, a limited budget, which gives us a limited number of choices. So here, our example was a budget of $16, and we wanted to choose between beer and pizza. And so as I explained to you last time, a good way to show all the combination of pizzas and beer I can want to consume is to put them all on this graph there. So I have pizza on the horizontal axis and beer on the vertical axis. And then what I want to know is what combination or what basket of goods of beer and pizza can I consume with my budget. And a good way to draw this budget line is to just ask ourselves, imagine I consume 0 beer, how many pizzas could I afford? So I can afford $16 divided by the price of pizza 2. So that means that I can afford, if I consume 0 beer, 8 pizzas at most. Same thing with beer and pizza. So if I consume 0 pizza, how many beers can I have? So I take all my budget and only consume beer, and I get 16 divided by $4, the price of beer, and I get that I can consume at most 4. And then all my budget set is going to be defined with this budget line here, which are all the combination of beer and pizza, which allow me to spend everything. And now one other concept that was useful is the slope of this line. So the slope of this line, we didn't, well, maybe I didn't. Oh yeah, here it is. So the slope is always when I increase the unit on the horizontal axis by, increase by 1 unit, how much does my function change here? And here I see that every time it's best if I show this. Yeah. So every time I increase the quantity by 1 unit, the quantity on the vertical axis decreases by 1/2. So the budget line, the slope is minus 1/2, minus 0.5 over 1. And what does that mean? Well, it means that every time I'm spending all my money, and if I decide, oh, actually, I want to consume more pizza. So if I want to consume 1 more pizza, I have to give up a half a slice or half of, no, not a half a slice, or half of a beer to be able to afford it. Now, this looks like I can consume like 3/4 beer and 5/5 pizzas. In real life, I know that I have to choose between a fixed or a whole amount. So either 1 or 2 or 3 pizzas or 1 or 2 or 3 beers. Why do economists do it like this? We do it like this because it's much more convenient. The math is much simpler to express if we just have this abstraction that I could decide exactly to consume at that specific point. All right. Now let's really quickly answer these 3 questions and then move on. So question 1, what happens if my budget increases? How does this graph change?
The amount of pizza and beer will increase. The amount of pizza and beer we can buy would increase with our budget.
Yeah, so how is this line going to change?
It'll, sorry.
Isn't it going to shift upwards?
Yes, exactly. And the slope is going to stay the same. So imagine that my budget goes from, say, like, yeah, let's say doubles. That's going to be simpler. So if my budget doubles, then instead of maximum of 4 beer, I could consume maximum of 8 beer. So that's 4, 5, 6,
Sir,
7.
then will the slope become more negative?
What do you think? How many pizzas can I buy if I don't have a budget of 16 but 32?
Yes, I think it becomes more negative.
Right? Why is that? So again, let's ask ourselves, if my budget goes from 16 to 32 and I decide to buy 0 beer, how many pizzas can I buy at most?
16.
16.
16 slices.
16 slices because you have double the budget.
Yes, exactly. So 8. Yeah, so that's 15. So 16 is there. So what happened with our budget line? So it stayed the same. It has the same slope as before. And why didn't the slope change? Well, the slope is defined by the relative prices. It's how much do I have to sacrifice in terms of beer when I increase one slice of pizza if I spend on my budget. So here it was 1/2 because the relative price is 2 divided by 4. And here the relative price is again 2 divided by 4. So my budget line still has the same slope as before. But
I have a
it's
question.
yeah, go ahead.
If the budget didn't allow for like a full beer, for example, but allowed for like a full another pizza, would the slope still be the same?
Okay, so yes, so that's a good question. So we imagine on our graph here, we imagine that we can buy any fraction of quantities. So I could buy 1/4 more beer or 3/4 more pizza. It doesn't matter. So it still works. So no, the slope wouldn't change. What would change the slope then?
If the price is changed.
Price of pizza and beer.
Price of pizza or beer.
Yes, exactly. So imagine that the price of pizza doubles. So imagine now I'm with this budget line here, and I double the price of pizza. So what happens? Here I could buy 16 pizzas. Now the price of pizza is no longer 2, it's 4. So how many can I buy?
8.
8.
8, exactly. So let's do some red here. So yeah, so just to show you what this is exactly. So this is price pizza doubles. And this one.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When we can see this line positive, not negative.
Say that again.
When we can see the line positive, not negative.
Oh, so all the budget lines are always negative.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Sure.
I always have to sacrifice one good to get some other good. It would be positive if buying one pizza allowed me to buy one beer, but then it means I don't have a limit on my budget.
Fair. And
Yeah.
the red one isn't the price of the beer that doubles.
No, that's the price of pizza. How can you be sure of that? Well, you have to ask yourself, so, okay, what happened between this and this? Here I could buy 16 pizzas. Here I can buy only 8 pizzas. So how could that have happened? If I could buy a lot of something and then whoops, out of a sudden I can just buy a few of that same thing.
Because the price of pizza has increased.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the price of the beer stays the same at the end, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this just to be clear, that's and budget double. Yeah, just not to confuse you. Now, okay, I don't want to spend more time on this because it's, I think, much more advanced than what you're going to see in the class, but this is just to show you everything that's going on with macro and how we talk about budgets. So if you understand it right away, that's great. You're doing super good. If you still don't understand, take your time, go over the example again. But don't worry, it's we're going to see that again later. All right, so now we move on to some other. And by the way, the last one, what if both prices double and my budget doubles? So this was understand and
Nothing changes.
exactly.
But won't you get the same quantity of pizza and beer if it doubles? Like,
Yes, and what does that mean? It means that
It will decrease.
well, the quantity I can buy is the same. And this is a very interesting thing in economics, which is that prices are nominal. They don't represent anything. So it means that, for example, if I said, oh, I'm going to double the Canadian GDP or maybe multiply it by 10 by adding a 0 on all the dollar signs. So everybody has, instead of a wage of $20, they have $200. But it also means that all the prices get multiplied by 10. So I have to pay 10 times more to buy something. So in the end, did that matter? Absolutely not. What matters to us here is our purchasing power. So if I double all prices and my budget doubles, then everything stays the same. Okay, so yeah, last question, and then we move on.
Sir, is it fair to say that the budget line will only change if the proportions between the budget and prices changes, unless it'll just be the same, but like just bigger, like?
Yes, exactly. So that's so for instance, what does when will say this number 8 change? It will change if only the price of pizza changes or only my budget changes. But if my budget doubles and the price of pizza doubles, then it's always, I'm still going to be able to buy 8 pizzas. But then this would change. But this point here wouldn't change.
yeah, because it's like proportional, right?
Exactly, proportional. Okay, so now I spent too long on that. So let's move on to the rest. But it's super interesting, so I don't mind spending some time.
Can I ask one last question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Would it be fair to say that the budget slope changes based on the price of products on the XY axis?
Say that again.
Would it be fair to say that the budget line or the budget slope changes depending on the values on the X and Y axis, or price of products that you're talking about in like certain problems?
Yes, so but relative prices. It's
okay.
How much do I have to sacrifice in terms of beer to get one more pizza? So what matters for that is what's the relative price of beer and pizza. If beer becomes more expensive relative to pizza, then yes, it's going to change.
Okay, thank you.
And what happens if the budget is the same, but the price, if the budget is the same and the price of beer and pizza remains the same? So what would the slope be?
Well, if the prices stays the same and the budget stays the same, so everything stays the same, no?
No, if the price of the beer is 4 and the price of the
Ah.
pizza is 4, but the budget is also 16. So
Then I can buy less, I can buy fewer. So that
Okay.
will be here.
okay, all right,
You,
thank
you
you.
see, every time the prices increase, my budget set, the total number of goods I'm able to buy decreases. Okay, so as again, this is more advanced, so that's all the time I want to spend on that. All right. So here we were last time. And this is the same idea, but for bicycle paths and road repair. So what can I do if I want to be able to increase both the number of bicycle paths and kilometers of road repair? Well, if I'm the mayor of Montreal, what I have to do is increase taxes. So I'm going to increase my city budget to be able to do both. Otherwise, I have to choose between one or the other. All right. Oh, last time there was a question. Can you give me a nice definition of economics? I said economics is whatever economists do, and the discipline is always changing over time. But still, I can give you one if you like. So that one. This is from Lionel Robbins, something I've used in previous classes. So economics is a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between given ends and scarce means, which have alternative uses. So this, I think it neatly sums up this whole budget question. So we have alternative means here, buying bicycle paths or road repairs. And so what we want to know is what are we going to choose between both of them? Yeah, we haven't got gone to choice yet, but this is a description of constraint basically. Yeah, but then again, yeah, economics is a very vast topic. So this is not something that you're going to be asked like, can you define economics? I don't think that question is, I haven't seen all the questions at the exam, so I cannot say for sure, but I will not worry too much about it. Okay. Yeah, so this is just saying what we were just saying. So the points that lie inside are attainable, and the points that lie outside of the budget line are unattainable because I don't have enough money to buy them. Opportunity cost, we already talked about this a bit. So somebody said, what was the opportunity cost of studying at Concordia? It's not studying at McGill. Yeah, sure. So, but what I had in mind is, so in terms of in terms of accounting or out-of-pocket cost, it's easy. We already know what it is. It's buying a book, buying a tuition. But then when we talk about opportunity cost, it's what goods do I have to give up to buy this good, to obtain this good of studying at Concordia. And it is not only what I could have bought with these tuitions here, but also what I could have gained by the extra time I would have. Well, I mean, if you come to the class but you just sleep, then or you just play video games, then it might not be a super high opportunity cost. But if you really concentrate and learn and spend time to do the exercises, then yes, going to university is a big opportunity cost. Gaining experience on the job market is important. All that said, I think it's the best decision you could make in your life to get a university degree. So I think it was a wise decision of you to do that. Okay, so a slightly more complex, yeah, actually quite more complex case, but we're just going to briefly discuss it. So the same thing that happened to a consumer can happen at the country level or at the producer level. Why? Because if I'm, say, a country and I have to decide between concentrating on, say, investment goods or consumption good, then I have the same set of questions. So, for instance, if I'm China in the 1990s or early 2000s, then I invest a lot in roads and buildings, so that's investment goods. But then if you're, say, the US or Canada, for that matter, then since the country is much more built up and we have good infrastructures already, we don't have to spend that much on that. We can spend more on TVs and nice consumption goods for consumers. But so you see that there is still this same trade-off. So if you're in China, you say, oh, I want to invest a lot in the future, you're at A, for instance. And if you're, say, in the US and all you care is buying the last TV at Best Buy, then you're at C. But there is this difference, is that before this was straight, and here now this is curved. So that's really the only difference between both. And do somebody have an idea what it means that the fact that the budget line is straight here and that it is curved here? It's not necessarily easy, but yeah, go ahead.
It's not relative like the other one.
No, it still is relative. So here, for instance, if I go from A to B, the question is always the same. If I want to increase the quantity of consumption good by delta X, how much do I have to sacrifice in terms of investment? That's delta Y. So it still is this marginal rate of substitution between A and B. But the question is, why is this rate changing there? If you don't know the answer, it's normal. Just guess. Try a nice intuition.
I think it's because of rise and fall of prices.
Maybe because it's unattainable.
It's because you're getting money at the same time.
Yeah, so I've heard. Yeah, so I've heard what I like these prices. So I'm going to say it here. So here it means that so imagine I'm the city of Montreal, but this it's not that good for the pizza and beer is the perfect example. What this means is if I buy zero, imagine we're at this is beer and this is pizza. If I decided to buy zero pizza, what is the relative price of pizza and beer? It's this slope here. Or if I'm almost maxed on pizza, what is the relative price? It's always the same. So if I'm in a restaurant and I want to buy only one thing or only the other, it doesn't matter. The relative price on the menu is always the same. My action has no effect on the relative price of the two goods because I'm just a small consumer. Here it's different. Here it's that's the country level. So it means that there are limits to what I can do. So if I decide to only invest in investment good, then I'm going to at some point have to sacrifice more in terms of consumption. Or here the same. Or another example I could give is a fishing boat. Imagine you're a fishing boat and this is salmon and this is, I don't know, tuna, for instance. No, maybe that's not a great example. But anyways, and if I use a big net and I catch some of one fish and some of the other fish, so that's easy, I'm here. And now I decide, okay, well, I'm just going to concentrate on this fish right here. So I'm going to use a specific net that just catches this fish. So I'm able to move in this direction. But, you know, at some point, some of these fish always gets caught in my net anyways. So here I don't gain anything by really trying to get this quantity of fish to 0. It doesn't give me anything more about for my capture of that fish. So there's technology involved. There's decreasing efficiency involved. So that's what I'm saying when I'm saying it's more complicated issue. But the underlying idea that you have to sacrifice and you cannot have, if you have a certain amount of production possibility, you cannot buy an infinite quantity or one or the other. That's still the same. It's just there's technology involved, and yeah, it's more complicated. All right. So key problems in economics. So first of all, the first one is what is produced and how. Given that we cannot produce everything as a country, or given that as say a household that produces stuff or a farmer that produces something, that I have to decide whether I'm going to make as a country TVs or houses, then the first question that economists ask is what am I going to produce and how am I going to produce it? And then, so of course, the question is what goods are better than the other? So that's going to decide, to help me decide. And is there a combination of goods that's better than some other combination? Well, if you're China, you decide that investment goods are better. If you're the US, you decide that that consumption goods are better. But yeah, we haven't got to choice yet. Now we just describe what can be done. And now, once we have our goods, then who consumes it? So what decides who is going to be able to consume one good or the other? So if we are in a capitalistic or a market-based economy, so does somebody have an idea who gets to consume more goods than the other?
The rich people.
Yeah, rich people. So people who have a lot of money, they can buy a lot of things. And why do they have a lot of money? Often it happens that there are people who are very productive, so they get to have a job that pays them a lot of money. So if you are Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, for instance, so yeah, go ahead.
Can you please go back to the other slide?
Yes, this slide?
Yeah.
But so this is all slides you have, right? You have access to them.
Yeah.
So I have a question as well, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go back 2 slides. You know the graph that you showed us. It says, you know, the change in Y box on the top left.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that size? Why can it be bigger? The change of Y. The box.
Why is it
that size?
Oh, so that's really a matter of technology. That's something that I observe. So I observe that as a country, if I try to increase my amount of consumption good, how much do I have to sacrifice in terms of investment goods? Well, it's a function of my production capacity as a country. It's a function of my technology, basically. So we haven't described exactly what is technology. That's the thing with this. So I have a meta comment, so a comment on these slides. So I think that they introduce a lot of concepts, and for me, it's difficult to see. It's just an introduction. Let's go quickly over it, but still, you have all these math symbols there, all these words, that it's So it's difficult for me to say, okay, let's just spend 1 minute on that and okay, everybody gets it. No, it's the introduction. It's a simple class, so I really shouldn't be too afraid about it. But still, I have to talk a bit about what's on the graph. Otherwise, what's the use of showing you all these things? So yeah, but still ask the questions. Good question. Yeah, if you but yeah, if you're a bit lost or don't understand anything, don't worry, it's an introduction class and you're going to have much more formal introduction to these concepts later.
Sure, I was just curious. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah. So what is consumed by whom? Yes. So if you're in a capitalistic society, who is rich?
Should you think sometimes services can be included as well? As
yes. Yes, so the only difference between good and service is the fact that a good, I can grab it in my hand, and a service is just something that somebody else does for me. But it doesn't have any, it's exactly the same in terms of economic analysis.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And if I'm in a communist society, what would that be? Oh, yeah. So
well, in a communist society, everyone's supposed to have the same access to goods. So like the government is the one that administers the money.
yes. So the communist motto is that one. So from each according to his ability, his or her. Let's put his or her because we are in a modern society.
Well,
To each according
that's the
to his or
model.
her need.
So that's the motto, but in reality, what usually happens is that the government has all the means and all the resources, and they just drizzle it down into society.
Ah, you're not that kind to society, to communistic, but yes. So that's the theory. That's what Karl Marx wrote. But so in practice, yeah, maybe in USSR or North Korea, that's not exactly how it happens. But that's how it's supposed to happen according to the big plan. I'm not saying that's the truth. All right, but again, we are not focused too much on communist societies because yeah, there are a few of them nowadays. Yeah, who gets a lot, who gets a little? Why? Well, in the market based, it's a matter of how much revenue I have, how much money I have, or how much inheritance I got from my rich parents, for instance. Should governments care about distribution? And if so, what tools do they have to alter it? Intuition about this?
Yeah, they can alter it with taxes.
Yes.
Government interventions.
So yes, they should care about it.
Doesn't the United States have like policies like food stamps to help
Yes.
people in need? People who can't necessarily afford food because they have like trouble to get something.
They can also help enterprises in their production of certain goods.
Yes, but that's going to have this is purely distribution, right? So, but if I help some enterprise, then it's going to change the GDP as well, or the total production. But you're
So
right.
they can increase investments in the country.
Yes. So that again, investment is something that's going to change how much I have in the future. But But it's true that, for instance, if I if I say that I want a green economy and I give good, say, subsidies to Tesla to produce some cars in Canada, for instance, then it's going to help the car industry as a whole and help consumers who want to buy them. So will the economy consume exactly the same goods that it produces?
No.
Yes or no? No.
No.
Why?
Because it's an impossible goal.
Because everybody has their own budget. How much you can buy.
Some country are
It's like
more
perfect
productive.
allocation of resources, and that's not possible.
Yeah, so okay, so I think that I heard some wrong answers and some right answers. So so again, there's reality and there's a concept. So in principle, if I'm a closed economy, then what we're going to see is if the market is at equilibrium, so the market clears, so it's possible that every good that is produced in the country is consumed by the citizen, and there is no loss whatsoever. So what happens in reality is, first of all, there is waste. So for instance, the food, I think like one half of the food is wasted. But it's in principle, it could be that I don't waste anything. But still, there's something else that might be going on.
We export food to other countries.
Yes, exactly.
Sir, I think it depends on the demand. If the demand is high, then it will be consumed.
Yes, and if the demand is, but you know, if the demand is low, so for instance, I don't particularly like, I don't know, asparagus, but if the asparagus are so cheap because nobody likes them, then I might still buy them and eat them because the price is so low. So it depends, there's a price going on there too. But here I think what they have in mind with this point is trade. So some countries export, say, food and import cars, for instance. So waste, we don't care too much about it. We just prefer that if there is none, but in economics, we don't judge people. So if I decide that I'm going to buy a pizza and eat it, it's my choice. If I decide I'm going to buy a pizza and make a pizza fortress with it or whatever, or throw it in the garbage, it's my choice. I paid for it. So essentially my use of the pizza was to throw it in the garbage. If I decide to buy the Mona Lisa and then burn it, well, if I have enough money to do it, then it's my choice, and who cares about the rest of the world because I had enough money to buy it. If France was willing to sell me the Mona Lisa, which of course France is not going to do that. But so we don't judge people as to how they use stuff. Of course we would prefer they didn't waste food, but if a rich person wants to do, so I could say that if Jeff Bezos went into space, that was just a big waste of money, but I'm not going to put him in prison for choosing to do that. That's his choice. All right. So that was use. Why are some resources idle? So we usually imagine that the resources are perfectly functioning and everybody's working all the time, but sometimes that's not the case. So do you have an example of that?
Car production slowing down due to the shortage in microchips.
Yeah, okay, good. So that would be, yeah, how would I describe this? Yeah, so input shortage, which slows up production. So it's a complicated example, but it's a good one anyways. But I had a more straightforward one. So unemployment. And I'm here I'm writing unemployment and not say taking a vacation, because if say I'm a human resource, I'm somebody who can work like I'm doing right now, then if I decide to take a break or go on vacation, then you could say, oh well, I'm idle. But we don't say that because and by the way, I've lived in France for 8 years, and in France you have the coffee break, then the vacation, then the holiday on Thursday, and then nobody goes to work on Friday, and then the strike. So they like their vacation a lot, but we don't say it's they're idle, or it's just a choice that they make. They have a lower GDP, but they enjoy life more. But when we say idle resources, we really think of something like somebody who would like to work, or some resources. And here in that case, for instance, if you have a car that's 99% finished, but then you have a microchip that you would like to use to put in the car and you cannot use that, then that's really something wrong with the technology. And that is something that we tend to study, not in microeconomics, but more macroeconomics. So yeah, more of a macroeconomics question. So should government worry about idle resources?
Sure. Can we say that the resources are idle because of the lack of goods, or the unemployment rate is at its peak, such as the economy goes through recession, for instance?
Yeah, exactly. So a good example is recessions. Or another example is just COVID.
I think if the government would not use the idle resources, so then unemployment affects the GDP of the country as well. So it's directly going to affect the country.
Yes. So you said that if the government intervenes for idle resources, is going to affect the GDP. That's what you said?
Yes, the government should worry about the idle resources.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and do you know the name of the famous economist who made a lot of progress in that question? GMK? No?
John Maynard Keynes.
Yeah, exactly. I hope I'm not making a spelling error there. So yeah, what he said is if people are unemployed and some firms have idle resources that they cannot make use of because there's no demand right now, well, the government should just buy their stuff. So if there are a lot of unemployed people, then the government should build a new bridge or build a third link under the St. Lawrence River for Quebec City, for instance. So yeah, but again, so this is a macro question. So we are not going to dive too much into that right now. But
I have a question.
Yes.
If a country has some resources, but they're not able to exploit them because they don't have the technology, do they become idle?
Oh, that's a very nice question. So in a way, what you would say is if they don't have the technology, so okay, I have iron ore here, but but nobody knows how to exploit it. So let's have a investment project to research how to use iron ore, and then yeah, we can use it and make better weapons, for instance.
Can the country also just sell the exploitation rights to a foreign corporation or foreign country and then transfer it for like a cash flow?
Yes, yes. So it's yeah, everything there is true, and you see that these are all specific questions that have their specific underpinning. So yeah, that I don't want to spend too long on that, but yes. About this question of exporting resources, so there is one Quebec Prime Minister Duplessis who said to foreign firms to buy, I think it was iron, but I'm not sure. For the somebody knows the price? 1 cent per ton. So that was so cheap, but it's because there was no investment at the time. So he said, okay, what do we do to develop our mining industry? We have to make it profitable for foreign firms to come. Yeah, he was criticized for that, but at the same time, that developed the economy. Okay, moving on. Oh yeah, go ahead.
We can say that occasional idleness can be good in the long term. Like for instance, it could be good for the future, as it would push people to work more and to create more. Yeah.
Not sure, but maybe what you have in mind is the question: when is it good to exploit some resource or not, for instance?
Because the economy can go back up at any time.
Okay, yeah. So, but yeah, so it's a complicated question. When should I extract some resource? Yeah, or should I let the economy go back on its own to the full employment? So yeah, these are all interesting questions that. So about resources, that's explored in resource economics and environmental economics. So you can study that further. And about when should I help the economy to recover? That's so more of a macro question. Okay. Is productive capacity growing? So yes, that's something that we saw with the budget. If I have more budget, then I can spend more on my pizza and beer. Same thing with consumption good or investment goods. If I have more people in my country or more machine or more capital, then I'm able to produce more. So my production possibility boundary is increasing. By the way, production possibility boundary is the term that you're going to see, but sometimes we see also production. Let's see. Frontier. That's also something that you may read in some places. That's the same question. That's the same concept. And here what we say is points E and F were unattainable before, but now that I have more production possibility, then they become attainable.
So if the country is going into inflation, so that means that it's going to increase the product. So it's going to increase the graph, right?
If the country is
going into inflation.
Inflation.
Yeah.
Well, so that it depends. Inflation depends on. Yeah, let me not go there. It's a very fascinating topic, but yeah, this is purely in terms of, we could abstract from any money here. It's just how many firms do I have, how many machines do I have. But yeah, inflation has its own problems. Okay, so as I was saying, there's a difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics. So macroeconomics is the study of causes and consequences of allocation of resources affected by the price system. So it's a study of how firms and people choose. And macroeconomics is the study of the result of this interaction in terms of the whole market. Yeah, so in terms of aggregate output, total employment, and economic growth. And idleness of resources is a macro question. But of course, the distinction is not always clear-cut. Good economics usually talks about this part and then this part too. And you're going to see in macro that a lot of modern macroeconomics model, or maybe almost all of them, are what we say micro-founded. So they have a microeconomic model underneath, and then we study the macroeconomic consequence of this macroeconomic model. Right. Government policy. So that's something that we talked about in terms of idleness. Market failures, that's another word that they just throw to us. I don't know if I should talk about it, but so let me briefly say what a market failure is. Does somebody have an idea? If not, I'm just going to give you a small definition.
For example, if a resource is not allocated properly.
Yeah, that's the consequence. So market failure is a deviation. Yeah, yeah, it's a good way to put it. So deviation from the perfect.
Maybe also externalities.
Competition. Equilibrium. So this would be perfect competition is competition. Competition. Is that, do I have a spelling mistake there? No, I think that caused by anything. So either
exploitation of a product or resource.
Police.
Yeah, so oh, it's that's something that you learn in public economics. So I could say something by either yeah, by some it's, how can I say that, by some problem such as imperfect information, externality,
yeah,
etc. These are all things that you're going to learn in public economics. It's down the road. Do free markets lead to fair outcomes? That's about efficiency. So market failures mean that I won't produce as much as I should. Now, it doesn't say anything about if it's fair or not. But so do free markets lead to fair outcomes? It depends what your definition of fairness is. If it's everybody has the same, then I think we can all agree that no. But if you're Elon Musk and you say, yeah, but fair outcome is I receive what I should receive because of how good I am, then for you it's fair. So economics, what we tend to say is I can get a fair outcome, if I can get any outcome I want if I redistribute things that in the way that I choose to redistribute them. But we don't like to say too much what is a fair outcome. That's something that you decide in the political process or in philosophy. Yeah, so this we already talked about.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, in what conditions can an economy enter into bankruptcy?
Into bankruptcy.
Speculation.
So that's if you
When
as
they
a,
corrupt their resources, I guess it's the main.
yeah, no,
Probably.
bankruptcy is really not being able to pay back your debt. So I'm not able to pay back my debt if I borrowed, say, to a foreign country in their own currency, and then I just say, oh, sorry, I defaulted my debt. So that's bankruptcy. So if you're a poor country, that's something you need. But we have to move on because we have so many slides to see. Anyways, everything is interesting, but.
So can you go back for 1 second?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Something that's very interesting about modern economies is that it is self-organizing. So when individual and consumers and producers act independently to purpose their own self-interest, the collective output is coordinated. So who really described this the first? A-D-A-M-S. Come on.
Adam Smith.
Yeah, good. Adam Smith realized this. Realized that with market economies, there's only one thing that matters for most people is, yeah, only source of info. It's prices. If I, as an individual, I know observe all the prices, then I can make the best decision. I don't have to know anything about anybody else. I know, oh, I like apples. The price of apple is $1. Good, I buy. That's the only thing I care about. And if everybody does that, we're all better off. So that's his famous quote. So it's not from the benevolence of the butcher or the brewer or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their self-interest. And in the same way, we just, we don't give them money because we like them. We give them money because we like meat, we like beer, and we like bread. So that's what creates exchange, and that's what allows economies to be well managed. These interactions. Okay, moving on. Hope I can still at least finish chapter 1. Yeah, so what Adam Smith realized is that this created efficiency spontaneously. I don't have to have knowledge of everything that's going on in the country. I just allow people to do that and things are efficient. Efficient, yes. As long as there are no what market failures.
Are you gonna post the updated notes on Moodle?
Yeah, maybe I could do that. Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
So that's what we mean. And market failures is, for instance, I can give you one example maybe. So a public good, something like a park, for instance, then it's if the whole neighborhood is able to profit from the park, then it's good that there's a park there, but it's expensive to make it. So if everybody pitches together and pays for it with taxes, then the park can happen. But if I just, as Adam Smith says, base myself on the benevolence of everybody, then everybody is going to think the same. Oh, a park is expensive, so I don't want to build it on my own. And what happens is the park is not built. So that's some sort of market failure. So if we have that, then we don't have efficiency. But if we have say the market for toothpaste, then the market for toothpaste is fine. I have Crest or Colgate or other brands that produce toothpaste. I know what they are, what they do, and I can brush my teeth and buy whatever I like. So there's no problem with toothpaste. Toothpaste market is efficient. But public goods market, health market, a lot of market that education in which the government invests a lot, those are all markets that if the government invests in them or in the government intervenes in them, usually there's a reason for it, and it's because there are some market failures under them. Yeah, but if there were no market failures, then yeah, we would get efficiency. So that means that if I choose to have some goods produced, then I can expect that they're going to be produced the most efficiently possible, so with the least possible amount of resources. By the way, something I could see real briefly. So what does that mean? It means that I produce efficiently would mean that I'm producing on this production boundary, possibility boundary. D, what is D is it's a outcome that is inefficient because it means that I have that much money or that many workers, that many firms that could allow me to produce B, but for some reason I produce D. It means that I'm a very poor manager. So I could do better than that. So economies should thrive to be on the production possibility boundary, just as individuals or cities should thrive to be on the budget line. Being there is not good. It means that I had $16, but I decided to burn half of it and not use it. But no, if I'm in the bar and I like beer and I like pizza, I'm going to try to spend the whole $16. Right, here we are. Yeah. Okay, incentive versus and self-interest. So this is what we call an assumption. So we say that individuals pursue their self-interest and that they are also rational. So they know how to obtain, they know how to take good decision to have their best interest in mind. And with that said, then they can respond to incentive. So can somebody give me an example of incentive?
Publicity?
Oh, yes.
Government tax break if you are starting a government in a specific, a company in a specific field.
Yes, and subsidies. So that's what we say by incentive. Publicity is it's true that people react a lot to it, but I personally, I'm not affected by publicity, but the other people, they are. But why am I not going to put that here? It's for a subtle reason. It's because economists, we tend to not judge people about their tastes. So we say, okay, you like consuming X, so that's it. I'm just going to assume that it's the case and influence you by influencing prices. But then if you add publicity, what are you trying to do? Well, you're trying to change people's taste. And of course, in real life, it works. That's why people spend a lot of money on publicity. But economists don't talk too much about it. That said, it's true that governments can use publicity to affect. So for instance, now we see COVID publicity to try to convince people to wear a mask and to get vaccinated. So yeah, the government is using that too.
There's also like a bonus if you buy something.
Yes, so that's what I mean by subsidy. Yeah. So if I receive money to buy something. And finally, this sellers usually want to sell more when prices are high, and buyers want to buy more when prices are low. So does somebody know what this leads to? I'm going to draw a small graph here. I have price here and quantity there.
Does it perhaps lead to shortage and surplus?
The
Yeah.
demands
Yes,
versus the
exactly.
offer.
Yes. Supply and demand. So that's something that we're going to see a lot in this class. Oops. Supply and demand. And this is going to be the market equilibrium. So this is the core of microeconomics that we are going to see a lot in this class. So people like to buy more when the price is low, that's demand, and people like to supply more when the price is high. If the price of say cars is $200,000, then I'm going to leave right away, leave my job and start to work in the car sector, because it's just, even if I have no skill in the car sector, it's just so good that that's what I'm going to do. So the supply will increase. Right. Complexities of modern economies. So three types of decision makers: consumer, producers, government. We have talked a bit about it. So these people exchange stuff, the government taxes these people, and then builds stuff or redistribute back some money. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to dive too much into that. Yeah, there's something about little there, but I talked a bit about it. Circular flow. So individual firms. So here is just the two of them. Factor markets. So individuals, what do they provide to firms? What do I provide to Concordia, for instance?
I'm sorry, Professor.
Yeah.
Could you go back to the supply and demand?
Yeah.
This one, just a second. Thank you.
So, but my question stands, what do I provide to Concordia?
Service time.
Your experience.
Service as a professor.
Yes, my experience, or something more easy, my labor or my work. So this is the labor market. So individual give their supply their labor to the university or to the producers, and what do they get in the return? They get, what do I get in return from my service?
Money. Wage or salary.
Wage,
Your salary.
exactly. And what does the, so if I have kids, what does the Concordia give to my kids?
Discount.
Yeah, education, or yeah, here it's good. It's good and services, and then we pay that in tuition. Yeah. So that's this circular thing happening there. Yeah, question?
So do you provide value to university?
I hope so.
Do you contribute to the university's value or like the prestige, something like that?
Yeah, so the firm is a function of, so the quality of the firm is a function of the quality of its worker, of course. But yes, so what the only thing I wanted to show there is that two markets are going on there. There's the labor market and which exchange labor for wage, and there's a goods market, which exchanges products and services for money. And there are other markets I could add, so like financial market. Is it a T or C? Yes. Risk, so insurance market. So and many other markets. So these are two, but you have many more. So these are all things that you are going to learn about, where these individuals and firms deal with banks and other actors. So yeah, a whole lot of fun. All right, 3 minutes left. Oof, I don't know if we can finish that. But don't worry, the other classes are shorter, so we should be able to finish. Yeah, so this is just what I described there. So yeah, factors are from individual to firms, so labor, and goods are from firms to individual, and money payments. So what good is this? So if we add specialization, then it means that people who are talented in some sphere can work in that sphere and to make the pie of everybody bigger. So we call this comparative advantage, and same for countries. So if I have a country that so if I'm Canada, I have a comparative advantage in say producing corn, because I have all the west of Canada that has large fields, so I can export that. So again, trade allows me to specialize. And the division of labor allows to break up production and make tasks specific. So do you know a famous example of breaking up of production process? HF. Henry.
Ford.
Yeah, Henry Ford. But he didn't invent that. So if you are interested in history, there's other example. So the Venetian arsenal or ships. So these are the people who defended the Mediterranean against the Turks. So if they didn't have a good ship production in Venice, then yeah, the Turks would have invaded the whole Mediterranean as well. But people know more about this example there. Okay, so I should stop here, but I'd like to continue maybe 5 minutes again. Sorry for people who have other things to do, just to catch up with the time we lost the first class. So yes, people who leave us, just watch the last 5 or 10 minutes of the class to make up for it before next week. All right, because I think that's the best trade-off. So goodbye for those who have a class, and we can continue for 5-10 minutes there. All right. Money and trade. So specialization must be accompanied by trade, of course, because if I specialize in producing only shoes, then I have to be able to exchange my shoes for food. Otherwise, I'm going to starve to death. And we do that with money. By the way, barter is, people have this idea that there was first barter and then, I don't know, thousands of years later, money was invented. So that's not what anthropologists are finding. They're finding that barter actually almost never existed because it's just so much more convenient to use money. So what is money? It's barter with some resulting good. So for instance, if I produce fish and the other person produces education, so I could try to exchange my fish for some education, but you see how complicated it is. So very, very quickly, I'm going to realize that, okay, I'm going to have to accumulate some good that's usable by a lot of people, that does not rot if it's a fish, or that I can produce, can give right away in exchange. So I don't have to promise, oh yeah, in 10 years, I'm going to educate your child, for instance. So very quickly, the world converged to what? So yeah, the origin of money. So what's good that I can exchange very easily, that doesn't rot, that's lightweight or relatively lightweight, that I can carry with me?
Money.
Yeah, but money. But before that,
gold. No, that's heavy.
Yeah. Gold is good. So precious metal.
Yeah, but gold is heavy.
Yeah, so that's why we moved away from gold. But back then, it's still much better to carry gold and coins than to carry fish or to carry
Peppers, I think.
Yeah, and then then we went to paper money, and then we went to electronic. That's a fascinating topic. I encourage you to take at least one finance class or monetary economics class. But that's all we are going to say about this right away. And in the future, who knows, maybe cryptocurrencies, but economists are not too sure about cryptocurrencies yet.
Maybe cars also.
Cars?
Hmm.
Yeah, but cars, it's complicated. It's barter, right? If I pay you in car, then
Well, just like yesterday, one of the Southern American countries just started accepting Bitcoin as a legal tender.
Yeah, it's what's that country?
Salvador.
Yeah, Salvador. Yeah. So yeah, maybe it's the future. So I don't have an opinion, so I cannot say that. I'm not saying that I think it's a rushed decision. I'm not saying that because I don't have any opinion apart from the class. But yeah, hopefully all these cryptocurrencies is a fascinating topic that really asks us what is money in the end. But yeah. Let's just see, Canada is not going to adopt a cryptocurrency as legal tender tomorrow. Okay, globalization. Well, globalization, maybe it's not the best word. You could say it's internationalization. So it's just a process by which more and more of the countries get included into the destination at where you can travel and the people who get involved in world trade. So we're of course extremely integrated right now, but back in the beginning of the 20th century, we also had a great wave of globalization, and before that, you could say that. Anytime we have a new technology that allows people to travel faster or exchange more, exchange things faster. So yeah, brought about by technology. So example, we had horses. So if you have to walk by foot, then it takes you 2 days to get to the nearest city. Horses, you can do it much faster. So it brought a lot of trade in Asia, for instance. So it allowed Mongolians to invade Asia, and yeah, so that was a big thing. Then steam, or yeah, wind for ships, then steam, then the cable, then internet, all these things. They allow people to trade, to exchange information. Yeah. And now, are there alternatives to market economies? So this is, I'm just going to say what Ragan says in the book. So he describes traditional, so he described these three types of economic systems. So traditional is, what he says is, yeah, change is slow. And people stay in the same role as their parents. So yeah, it's true, but you know, even if I'm a shoemaker back in the Middle Age, I still go to the market and exchange my shoes for something else. So you have free markets even in the traditional sense. So I don't know exactly why he makes this distinction, but that's that. I'm just saying, if there's a question at the exam, so that's what it's going to mean by traditional. Then command is much more evident. So that's planned economies. So does somebody, I think I named it previously. So today, what would you have as example of planned economies or command economies?
URSS.
Yeah.
USSR, the People's Republic of China, Cuba, places like that.
I mean, all of the ex-socialist states could be considered planned economies.
Yeah, but today, I mean, yeah, you could see China still has a strong hand on the market and orients things, but replans command everything. That's I would say one example.
Maybe Korea.
Yeah, North Korea.
Sir.
Yeah.
Is it URSS or USSR?
USSR is in English, so Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And in French is. All right. And then free market is what's going on everywhere almost. But in practice, as we are saying, there everything is mixed in the sense that, yeah, if my mother was an economist, so I could say that I followed her path. So it's in a traditional sense, this still applies. And there's of course free market because I'm free to exchange my labor for a wage if I choose so. But there's also command. Why? Because the government intervenes a lot in the economy because we think it's better that way. Because again of market failures, of redistribution, of the need for redistribution. So yeah, in practice everything is mixed. Is there a question?
Sure. I had a question about Econ 203.
Yeah.
So is Econ 203 the follow-up of Econ 201? So should one student take Econ 201 then?
Oh, I have no idea about this.
Because I took both of them at the same time, and I don't know if that's risky.
If you work well.
Micro and one's macro, so the two are separate. You can take them at the same time.
Okay, yeah, 203 is macro. Oh yeah, so I think it's good. I think you can take both. I would say that really the fundamental one is microeconomics, but still the thing that you learn in introductory macro are not too advanced. So it's No, it's fine.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Great debate. So yeah, back in the days, we would have these schools, this Austrian school, the communist Marxist school. Yeah, so Karl Marx argued that free markets are not fair because the laborers don't get their just share. Yeah, so Marx is still popular for some people, but not all that popular, right? Yeah, I could give you one example of what was wrong with the centrally planned system. So back in the USSR, there was a lot of fires caused by exploding televisions. Why were televisions exploding? Because if you are a firm that needs to produce, so they had quotas to be respected, so you had to produce, say, 200 televisions at the end of the month, otherwise you're going to get punished because the state planned you to do that. But you couldn't plan ahead really well. So sometimes they didn't have enough screws or enough pieces to put the television together. So what they would use is nails instead. So they would have to nail the television together. And then, so that was, okay, you have a television at the end, but the television explodes. So that's not that good. Yeah, there is a question?
I was actually wondering how much longer are we going to be in class for?
Yeah, I just wanted to finish this, so 2 more slides.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just working overtime to make up for the half hour we lost.
Yeah, no, I have to go, but I'll check this later. I have work.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
All right, goodbye.
Bye. So yeah, most of these countries were not able to raise standards, especially at the end. So now we have free markets everywhere. Yeah, and this is just a review of what we've said. So governments now correct market failures, provide public goods, offset the effect of externalities that you're going to learn later. So I'm not going to define this term. And yeah, so markets tend to work well, but they need intervention. Okay, so finish for today. You can go to your other classes. So I think with that, we kind of made we're still a bit behind, but not that much.
Do we have any work?
Yeah, so on the schedule, homeworks or the first labs are later, so you still have time to do that.
Okay.
So we don't have any assignments at this moment?
No.
Okay, great. Because I still got to get that MyLab stuff.
But do it as soon as possible so you can continue to see the schedule.
Yeah. So
is there?
Is there a question, or if not?
I have a question actually.
Yeah.
The assignments, I still need to get MyLab too, but the assignments are based basically on the content on the book and on what we've reviewed in class, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
For the labs, like, can we like do it at one moment, then like leave the app and then come back and do it at another moment, or do we have to do it in like one shot?
If it's one question, then once you click on the question, you commit to doing that question, and there's no specific time that you have to do it, but you might get disconnected if it's idle for too long. But otherwise, you can do the labs in different moments. I believe so.
Yeah, so so I could do like half one day and half the other, and there's no problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do we access this? I don't understand. I tried it, but it didn't
Okay, so you have to click on, it's through Moodle. I can do it maybe.
So I see my lab and mastering registration guide.
Yeah, so you have to register, I think. Yeah, the thing is, I tried to do it from your perspective, but it's new for me too. So I'm not too sure. I'm sorry if I cannot be of more help.
Do we have to buy the textbook to be able to use it?
If you click on it, they ask what your section or what your ID is, and you give your Concordia net name. But then I don't know, did somebody do it, and do you have to pay for it, or do you have it automatically?
You have to pay for the either if you bought the book beforehand, you would have to use the access code to enter MyLab, and which is already in the book. And if you didn't purchase the book beforehand, the digital book, then you would have to pay the either the 96 or the I think the 50s. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers were, but I paid for the second one, which was the cheaper version. But it all depends on which one you want to choose, and then it will open up MyLab for you, and then you'll have access to everything.
Thank you for this great answer. Better than I could.
Do you know if I've already paid for MyLab in the other class, I can use the same code for this one?
You can't. You have to basically, you have a separate payment for each class that you enroll in.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a question.
Go ahead. Now you go ahead, the other person.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Are we responsible for like the problems at the end of the chapter, like in the book when it says problems, and then like the first chapter, for example, it talks about the problems with the opportunity cost? Like, are we responsible to do those?
So you're responsible for doing the labs and the exams. If you are already a professional economist and you don't have to do them, then good. I advise you, if you're new to economics, so you do as many exercises as you can, and you get proficient with them.
All right, thank you.
So someone told me that on MyLabs you can do like test quizzes and practices, but when I went on to MyLabs, it only had one practice quiz. Is it because you need to set them personally? Because I can't find any practice examples I want to do.
Yeah, that's something that I succeeded in doing the first time.
Because maybe you need to set them so I can, maybe you add the tests and I can practice them. Maybe that's how it works.
Usually Moshe is setting the whole thing for everybody. Let me see if I
I can show you my screen. It just like says like one practice exam. I want like many of them.
Yeah. So I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let
Do you
me see
think
if I
maybe it
can
might develop over time? Like after a certain amount of like dates and time, they will open up. Maybe that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So I can ask Moshe about it.
Because that happens with my other class where only certain dates after like a certain period of time, it'll open up itself. So then let's say, for example, we finished unit 1. After unit 1, it would open up a new practice or something like that.
Oh, great.
I think it's the best is I will check. Yeah.
It's a thought.
So I think this question, anybody is going to have it. So I'm going to check and send a message to everybody.
Can we practice for the labs or no?
Yes, so that's part of the same question. So if you have a practice exercises, then you can practice for the lab.
Sir, is there any technical issues when you're trying to access the MyLab and mastering in an iPad? Do you know?
I'm not familiar with Mac, and I never had an iPad, or So I
Because like
didn't check.
so like I clicked on the launch the activity, right?
Mm.
And then I'm in this page where I have to like click on the button like open my lab and mastering.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's nothing. I click on it and there's still nothing. I'm
Okay,
still
so
in this page.
yeah, so last time the same thing happened to me during class. I was trying to show how to use MATLAB and then nothing was happening. But I've realized that it's because there were pop-ups that were being blocked by my browser. So I don't know if you're able to unblock pop-ups. Maybe that's that will do it.
Okay, I'll figure it out. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Have a good day, everybody.
Sir, I
Thank you
have
very much.
a personal
Oh.
question.
Okay,
I
I'll stay here. Yeah.
I sent you an email. I don't know if you received it. So for the first midterm, like I have a game at the same time.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, I wanted to look at the procedures for that, but I haven't had time. But I remember your
Okay.
email.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure you received it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, sir, for the book code is like on the book, right? It's not, you have not a specific code for the access.
So the book code on the book. So you mean you already bought the book?
I think it's digital. So I think the code we have to enter it, but it's not like other classes. You have like not a specific code that we have to use for our labs and we have to use the book's code, right?
I think when they ask for ID, it's net name. Then book code, I'm not sure.
Then there's the access code on the book that you should find either on the first page or like when you open the book itself. And then if you don't have the book, there's like a class access code that it's presented on the Moodle, and it will have the code name of our class specifically when you have to add a class.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I looked into the MyLabs, right? And it says your instructor has not created any quizzes or tests for you. And you can also have sample tests. And these ones says, you know, they won't affect your grade. These ones you need to add. So maybe if you have time, just add like a couple, like, what's it called? Chapter 1, like examples. And that way I can just go through it, check it out.
Yes. I think I have to do that because you have to at least know what you're going to see.
Thanks.
So yeah, I'm definitely going to get into that after the class.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. I'm gonna go now. Thanks.
Thanks.
Take care.
So, sir?
Yeah?
There aren't any exercise to practice for chapter 1 for the moment?
Yeah, it's the same question again. Yeah, I'm going to look into that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Sir?
Yeah.
Hi. So I'm not sure how to take notes in this class. Like everything seems important for now. Like do you have tips, I guess?
So it's a good question because in some sense, the book and the slides are already super detailed. So the best I would say is when you hear something that I say that strikes you, write it down on your notes or beside. But also note that, so I give examples and I explain what the words in the slides mean. But the test questions are generally not that complicated. So it's not like I'm going to say one small word somewhere that's not written in the slides, and if you miss it, then oh, you're toast. You cannot answer the question. So that's how I would advise to do it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And the exam, are they going to be like essays or like graphs you will have to draw, or multiple question?
Okay, so the exams are going to look a bit like the MyLab quizzes. So what you can have is multiple choice. Like I've seen some, for instance, if the price of some good decreases, is the consumer going to want to buy more or buy less? This type of thing.
Okay.
And then some can be something like a small graph, but with some curve missing, and then they ask you, oh, please draw the curve. And so the first time I was unsure how to do it exactly, but then you realize, okay, you understand pretty quickly how to do it. So that's some sort of curve drawing, and sometimes it could be like questions with multiple parts. And yeah, that's in that. If that happens, then you answer first part and second part, and sometimes maybe the numbers or the setting of the first part is relevant for the second part.
All right.
But it's
Thank
all
you.
online.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Sir?
Yeah.
A last question for the chapter 1. Should we take a look at the book, or are the slides enough?
Do you really think I'm going to tell you, oh, buy the book, but you know what? Don't worry, don't read it. No, of course, it's better to read it. So the slides follow the book quite well, but yeah, it goes into much more details. Oftentimes, the slide gives you a small sentence, but under it. So, for instance, when I was describing traditional economies, yeah, but what does that mean? What is traditional economies according to Ragan? So you go to the book and you read the chapter on that. And what's nice about it is, everything is digital, so you can just search for something like a search word traditional economy, and you find it in the text very quickly.
Okay, and for the book, it's the digital one, like it's the Reagan digital book, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I find it on the Concordia bookstore, the online bookstore.
No. So that's something important. Everything is going to be good if you go through the Moodle page of this class. But if you go through other means, then it may be more complicated. So yeah, it's always best to follow all the instruction in the Moodle class, and if you follow the MyLab and mastering link from the Moodle page.
Oh, because I entered in MyLab and mastering, but I'm not finding the book. I don't know why.
Oh. Maybe I can do it right away again, just to show what you should see. Yeah, so let me share my screen. Yeah, so this is the class. Is it 201? Yeah, that's 201. So you click on MyLab and mastering.
Okay.
And then open MyLab and mastering. And then you have this pop-up that happens there.
Yeah, that's Pearson. Okay, I have access to Pearson. But
and then the book is Pearson eText, I think. Yeah, that's it. So you have all table of content. So chapter 1 is here. Yeah.
Okay.
And you see, you can search for, my example was tradition. And then it tells you everywhere in the text where traditional opinion. So that it's, I think it's quite neat. That's technology for you.
And question, when I have to select an option on Pearson, they tell me or to use an access code or to use a credit card or PayPal. But if I pay for the 95 Canadian dollars option, the access code comes with it, right? Like with the book.
I would hope so, yes. Yeah. That one thing too is what if ever you pay and you don't know exactly how things are working, you can. I encourage you to call them and or email them. It's a service that you pay, so of course they're going to help you.
Okay, perfect. And is it better to buy the book with the e-text, right?
Yeah, personally, it's been a while since my books behind me are behind me, and I'm not using them all too often, so I prefer ebooks.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day, sir. Bye.
Have a good day. Other questions?
I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Regarding like the question that was previously asked about purchasing like the ebook, what I did, I just purchased the like the book online with the e-text, but then after I got that, I didn't get an access code, but I have access to like all the labs and the e-text and everything. So is that what I'm supposed to see, or am I supposed to have a different access code?
So did you try to do what I just did? So
yeah, that's what I did.
And this, and then person e-text.
And I have that.
So then you should. So the other student before, she said that you get some access code, I think. I don't know, on the first page or something. Copyright.
Okay, but like the access code gives you access to what? Because I have like all the, like what you see right now, I have it, but I don't know where I'm supposed to put an access code.
Yeah, this is above my head.
Professor, if you want, I can answer that question.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you applied or you just registered for this using Moodle from the Moodle link, which the professor just did, there's no access code because you're paying and it directly gives you the Pearson e-class and the labs. So if you go like to my classes, my courses, you can see Econ 201F. And there you can have access to the MyLabs if you paid for the MyLabs, and to the ebook if you paid for the ebook. So there's no access code that you need to have.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Other question?
One comment.
Go ahead.
It's working, right? So it's working.
Yeah, it's kind of working. So
okay.
Try.
Apologize, I'm in the library. Just a note for you, if you have to send an email to everyone again, I recommend sending it to yourself and BCCing everyone.
Oh yeah. So this is it was the first class because yeah, sure. So it's really because I did. So before the day before the class, I thought, okay, I'm going to send an email to everybody through Moodle to just tell everybody, by the way, I've put the information on the Moodle page, so this is how you connect. But then I started the class and almost nobody was there. So I realized that nobody could see the class. So then I asked for the list of all the people. But okay, so it's a good advice for in general if I email to a large group that I should use CC instead.
BCC, yes.
Yeah. So Okay, and so that way people cannot like answer to each other, and it becomes a crazy line of emails. That is
Potentially secure.
yes, yeah.
Security reasons.
Yes, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry for doing that. The first time I was in a rush, let's just say. So yeah.
It's not as big as a nation. It's just I prefer to state it.
Yes, yes. All right. So well, anyways, if you have other questions, just email me, and otherwise, then I hope you have a nice day, and I will see you next week. So bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
you.
day.
Thank you.